What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess, doing the mostest, Kivanshi, and we are here with Brilliant Minds, Season 2, Episode 5, Once Upon a Time in America. Like, can y'all believe that we are on Episode 5 already? I don't know what's going on with this year, but it has been a whirlwind, and nothing makes the year feels faster than watching weekly episodes and realizing, like, wow, it's been over a month. Doug, because you weren't doing any of that before I started. Thank you. Cross those paws. Gracias. So this episode is actually gonna be more recap. I would say it'll kind of be like a 50-50 recap versus like review thoughts and just kind of like where my mind is going with the series and what they're doing this season. Mainly because the episode itself is so like episode driven. A lot of my previous recaps and reviews have been focused on like themes and just kind of like the underlying things that's going on with the show and with the characters. I already look, y'all know I be forgetting with my stuff. Let me make sure this blue light is on. I triple checked it before I sat down, but I had to triple check it again. Anyways, um yeah, but this episode though, like the episode itself is so meaty and so juicy that I'm like, I have to talk about the case. And with a lot of like doctor shows, and even just first responder shows, the cases can kind of become repetitive, especially because the job itself is like, okay, you're doing the job day in, day out, blah, blah, blah. We're taking care of patients, they have neurological disorders, neurological events, all these other stuff. But this case is just insanity. And it's set up with a really nice cold open, where you see Josh kind of looking like surgery did not go well, and there's blood everywhere, and then you get into like, okay, 17 hours earlier. Now, as far as this episode goes, I've already been saying like this season, it just feels different. The way that they're telling the stories are the same. The emotional impact is the same. The each episode is gonna make you have conversations, but for like tonally and cinematically, this episode is just so much different than the other episodes in this season, and definitely different than season one. Like, for some reason, the vibe felt more like CSI. I'm trying to hold in this cough, but it just wasn't going away. The vibe felt more like CSI for me. What is happening? Hold, please. It never fails, right? Life is going great, and you're like, oh, let's go record, let's do some work, and then everything is just acting up. But it was like it was brighter, it was busier, it was punchier, and I think what really sold it for me and made me be like, whoa, like, am I watching Brilliant Minds, is the fact that we started the episode outside of the hospital. Like, we're somewhere else. We're in the lives of somewhere else. We're on a different part of the set. We're in a different part of the city. And doing that gives it such a shift, and you start to bring in a world outside of the hospital, and you really set up a space where you get the characters somewhere else. And it's not to say that the previous season and other episodes didn't have us outside, but for some reason, like the way that this episode started, like I just felt like I was on a completely different show, but in the best way. So it starts off with these two girls. They work in this company, and they're on the 39th floor, and one of the girls has a crush on one of the like window cleaners. I don't even know if they were cleaners. They were doing something. They were window repairmen. And as she was convinced by her coworker slash her friend to, shoot her shot at one of the brothers. His name is Jorge. And it was two brothers who worked together, Jorge and Benny, aka Benito. And as she puts her number on the glass and, he takes a picture of it, like, okay, sure, we'll go out. Like, I think you cute too, but don't have no expectations. I don't know how to dance. I don't know how to do none of that. Something goes terribly wrong and they end up falling 39 stories from the sky to the country. Like, so you have this cold open with Josh, and it's just like him in solitude and blood everywhere. And then you get this nice little opening. It's something bright, it's something fun, it's something cute. Boom. Tragedy. It is absolutely insane. And so now we are in the hospital and they're coming in through the ER, and Dr. Thorne, like Anthony is a boss in the ED. The way that he commands everybody with such authority, it's so easy, but it's not arrogant. Like, he can't stand Dr. Wolf, and maybe there's a little beef they got going on there, but when cases come in, he is just locked in, and he really extends his confidence and extends his expertise to the nurses, the interns, and the technicians around him. Like, he just has an energy and a presence that makes them feel just as capable as he is. And as Dr. Nichols is rushed down to the ER, as uh Wolf is rushed down to the ER, and it's basically like all hands on deck, especially after just having a conversation between Wolf and Josh about him having to offload some of his surgeries. Boom, we got some crazy case where somehow these two brothers survived a 39-story drop, and two OR rooms need to be prepped. So right away, you're thinking back to the cold open, and you're just like, we're dealing with budget cuts. We are dealing with manning issues. We're dealing with expertise. You're dealing with the time that it takes to get doctors in and get their credentialing and all these other stuff. And so here we have Josh having to do two high risk surgeries on brothers in the same event. And then the family comes in, and shout out to Ericka. She minored in Spanish, our bilingual queen. Her accent was definitely giving me like Puerto Rico, but then some things were giving me Spain. Either way, love the expansion of her character. I have been begging for just more of Ericka. And to see as we go into the episodes, Jacob is in the ER directly with um Anthony, Dr. Thorne. Dr. Markus is off somewhere. They're just splitting their rotations. I like that because now we get to break up the series and really expand medicine in the way that the departments work with one another. The consults and just like the pace of it, especially in the ER. In the ER, it's like go, 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 and you're trying to get them to the wards and get them stabilized as best as possible. It's not like a long-term thing. And so I just love like that speed that we're working with here. So the family comes, and you learn very quickly that the mom is literally praying and only rooting for Jorge to come through this whole disaster. And so even Carol's like, um, Ericka, is something lost in translation, because ain't both of these her sons? And Erica's like, I guess she's playing favorites. Like, I don't even know like what's going on. So we have this situation where we are getting a little bit more information through Ericka and Carol talking to the mom, and you find that when they came to the country, um Benny The mom was like, he's always been different. I've been trying to support him and all of his decisions. But when he turned away from religion, that was just something that she wouldn't be able to accept. So she really wasn't trying to see him. And so Carol's like, as a mother, I empathize and sympathize and I understand. Like, one of the hardest things to do is to watch your children make their own decisions, stray away from the teachings and stuff that you did. But, at the end of the day, like, they're still a part of you. And so Mama's like, listen, that's cute and all, but I really want Jorge to pull through. So Benny is stabilized before Jorge. And at one point, Josh comes out of surgery. It's been 8 hours, and he's like, I have to open up his skull on both sides. And, he's consulting with Carol and Wolf. And again, that teamwork, that friendship, um the maturity, the lack of arrogance amongst them as a team. You're not only watching Josh as the chief of neurosurgery, but you're also watching him as the chief medical officer of the entire facility, and he's consulting the two people in these departments on like what to do. And so that even shows like a little bit of deference to expertise from him, as he's not stepping into this interim position being like, okay, well, I make all the decisions unilaterally. I can still consult with my friends on like what's the best thing. And I love how they check in with him and they're like, are you sure? Are you okay? It's been 8 hours. What do you need from us? We support you. Let us know. And so you find that this episode is more Josh centric a little bit. As we're in the surgery and you're watching his routines, he has to put his left glove on first and then go in there. But then at one point, as stuff is getting like crazy and hectic, the nurse is putting the wrong glove on, and it's like all these other things. And so when you go back to that conversation that he was having with Wolf about the stakeholders basically being like, hey, you need to start offloading some of your stuff in some of your surgeries, like that pressure of trying to balance it all is interfering with him inside of the operating room, on top of the mom, Anna, sorry, the correct pronunciation, Anna, being like, give me a miracle. Now, the whole time, Anna was like, save Jorge, save Jorge. So eventually, though, as Benny is up and um recovering and they're just trying to get a little bit more information on what that relationship is, he's like worried about his brother. He's like, listen, I'll talk to my mom, but that don't necessarily mean she want to talk to me. Like, it is what it is. Like, I've been living with this. I just want to make sure that my brother is okay. So Carol does end up telling the mom, she's like, listen, regardless of differences, children will always need their mother, regardless of differences, regardless of um age. Even when you're horrible, it's just something that's biological from the child to the parent. And I've said this before in some other series that I've recapped on this podcast, but I said it about like unconditional love. Like, children will always unconditionally love their parents, even when they can't stand them, even when they remove themselves from toxic situations and set certain boundaries where they're not talking to their parents anymore. But the love between parent and child is based on a set of conditions. And the parent child conditional love versus the child parent unconditional love situation is simply because parents have a set of expectations from the moment you're conceived and growing in the womb, and they are placing their life onto you and looking at you as if you are not going to grow into your own autonomous person. And so anytime you stray away from the bounds in which they've envisioned your whole lifespan in their eyes, you are now forced to operate in order to receive their love, to receive acceptance, to be even able to live in their household. You have to always dance around their feelings, their sensitivities, their phobias, their isms. And But when you decide to cut those parents off because they aren't allowing you to spread your wings and be a whole person, then everybody's like, well, that's your mom, but that's your dad. How could you do that? You're a disrespectful child. But Anna walked into this room and in Espanol because she doesn't speak English. And she's just like, basically, it's your fault if Jorge dies. You have always been the spawn of Satan, and I'm not fucking with you. Now, in the spirit of the Lord doing a little bit of protective work for Benny, the type of injury that he ended up sustaining, he lost function of his first language. So Spanish was his first language, English was his secondary language. But as she was talking to him, he didn't understand what she was saying. Now, I was like, okay, bitch, you came in here, you're whispering in his ear. Ericka knows what's being said. Carol can kind of know. Zach, that's his real name. Dr. Wolf knows a little bit, but you can tell by the tone that what she's saying is not nice. But then when he doesn't react, she's all like, oh my God, like, why isn't he responding to me? Does he not understand? You want him to understand this? You fucking pendeja. Like, I just was like, ma'am, ma'am, do you care about your son or not? And this whole like religious situation is just, you know what? I'm gonna get into it in the end. Anyways, so I looked it up. Okay. I looked it up. Now let's go figure out what he has, because they were talking about, the difference between L1, L2, and it's talking about like the primary language and then the secondary language and how they're stored in different parts of the brain. And so where his injury was most impactful was for things that he learned and understood prior to the age of like 6 to 8 years old, because he didn't start learning English until after the fact. And so the way that he learned English was very different than he learned his primary language. As you first learn how to speak, whoever is talking to you, you're just learning through mimicking. There's no real lessons or no reading or anything like that. Your parents are just saying the things, and there is a innate and primary association to whatever it is that they're talking about. You don't know that a cat is a cat until your parent is pointing at the cat and they're saying cat. And it's why when you see a cat, or like if a child sees a truck for the first time, they're just saying this thing on four wheels is a truck. So then they'll see a car and they'll say truck. They'll see, like, they don't differentiate it because that's just not how they're learning. Versus, okay, now you're trying to learn something else is through more of like academia, right? And so the way that you hold on to that information is going to be a lot different, right? It's why you know how to speak, but you may not know how to read. It's just a different thing. So I hope I did not get out of, I have so many browsers open. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. So it's called foreign language syndrome. So in rare cases, a person can lose access to their first language, which is L1, while retaining their second language, L2. A phenomenon known as foreign language syndrome or paradoxical aphasia. This is a transient condition triggered by a neurological event, but it can become chronic in some cases. So it's caused by damage to the left hemisphere of the brain that impairs language, and it generally affects all language that a person knows. So just damage to that portion can affect every language that you know. But the paradoxical aphasia is unique because it's a specific language and a specific part of your brain that interprets a language ends up falling off. So in the episode, Benny knew she was speaking Spanish. He remembered his primary language is Spanish, but he could not interpret what his mother was saying. And they even did a couple of tests where he's, you know, cat gato. So he had like some type of academia where he probably still took Spanish in school. But he could not access the part of his brain that innately knew like what these things were. So Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I love how they bring in such cool neurological anomalies into the episode, and in this case it's married with something that is just so heartbreaking, which is the love between a mother and a child. Both of your sons fell 39 stories, not 39 feet. How many feet is 39 stories? Cause yeah, 390 feet to 580 feet, depending on the average height per story. Both of your sons somehow came to this ER with pulses and brain activity. And yet you're only praying for the one to live. You go to the one that came out of his event and you're saying that it's going to be his fault. So, she's out here doing all of this. Josh has crazy pressure on himself. And as Benny appears to be making a phenomenal, miraculous recovery, he ends up having a stroke based on the injury. And it was a stroke that nobody could have prevented. And it was a stroke that he would have never been able to survive. It was deadly. And it did cost him his life. Y'all, why did Anna start screaming and hollering and crying, talking about some no, 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 no? I'm getting mad all over again. I'm getting mad. I'm getting mad. I'm getting mad. Oh my God. I'm triggered. I wasn't triggered when I watched it, but I'm pissed. So he ends up living, and Josh is in this surgery with Jorge for over 14 hours, and it ended up being a success. So he's learning that Benny didn't make it, but Jorge did. And it's just I don't even know. It's just a tragedy. And Josh is beating the fuck out of himself. And I love that Wolf, despite the state of their relationship, I love that Wolf was like, doctors do this all the time. We will literally obsess and focus on who we lost, and we never focus on the patients that are alive in front of us. Anna asked for a miracle, and you performed a miracle. Neither one of them should have been alive at all. And with the stress and the pressures that you had with all that you are doing, you did some crazy shit in that operating room, and one of these boys lived. But somehow at the end of the episode, Anna goes up to Dr. Nichols and she slaps him and is angry at him that Benny didn't live and puts a curse on him. Yeah, so there's that. There's that. I just, y'all. Okay, let me get into my thoughts. Let me get into my thoughts. Bitch. Because Josh performed the miracle that you adamantly and vocally told everybody that you prayed for. You wanted one son to live. The son who did everything that you felt was right and was living in the bounds and the lines and the constraints that you set out for him, because he was just trying not to have his mother hate both of her sons. Are you thinking about Jorge losing his best friend and his brother? Any of that. So you're blaming Josh for one of them dying, but that's what you asked for. You did not once care about Benny recovering. And so now you want to put a curse on Josh? Bitch, listen, Listen, I'm all for respecting elders and parental figures and stuff like that, but I'll call you a bitch. And I don't believe in respecting people who are disrespectful. Like, being parents is so important. Everybody be like, "Oh, there's no rule book." Of course there's no rule book, and there is no um 100% right way. Each child is different, but there are definitely wrong ways. And sitting up in there only caring about one of your sons, cursing the other one and telling him that it's his fault in his own bed while he's trying to recover from a brain injury, and then he dies and now you mad? Girl, please. Girl, please. How about you go pray to the God that you was just praying to, and do something with that. Ask for forgiveness with that, because to me it looks like Benny was released from you, and he's in the best place possible. He's in the best place possible, which is not on this earth, continuing to live with a mother who has abandoned him. That is the best outcome for Benny. Anyways, I'm off of her. With everything that was going on, Ericka finally decided to um talk to Jacob about what's going on between her and Dana. And I love that he took such a non-biased approach. And you really get to see, like I've been saying, Dana, if you're going to tell Ericka that this is what you did and you standing on business, stand on business. But I like that Ericka was basically like, it's not that she did it. It's that I'm her best friend and she won't even tell me why. And it's looking real hypocritical. And Jacob was just like, "You're right," because Dr. Wolf should have got reported for taking PCP and she was out there with him when this happened. But he also trusts Dana, and he gives her some grace and some latitude to be able to speak with Ericka and let her know, like, it may not be what you think it is, and she may tell you in time. And so, because of everything that was really going on with the case, Ericka goes to Dana and she's like, "Listen, girl, I love you. We besties, besties before testies. I am upset that you reported Carol. I'm upset. But I cannot force you to tell me why, and you are allowed to have your own reasons." So I love the reconciliation in that, because honestly, Dana leaning into Charlie is not it, and Ericka separating herself from her friends is not it. And so they really need each other, and I really do love their friendship. I need Givenchy, and I'm gonna need that explanation though. Fuck you, Dana. I'm gonna need that explanation, because I still feel like you did it because you got yelled at by Carol. Unless this Allison situation is super closely related to some shit that happened in your own family, it is very hypocritical that you reported Carol, the black woman, and not Dr. Wolf, the white man. Especially given the situations where one put himself extremely in danger and the other person was still helping the patient. Like, what Wolf did was far more dangerous, especially because it was laced. And what Carol did was definitely ethically wrong, but she didn't push this patient to kill herself or do anything like that. She was still treating her the same way she treated the other patients, which is commendable given the whole situation. So I'm gonna need the explanation. Ericka, you do you, but I'm gonna need whatever that is. Moving into some lighter notes, we have a new cast member by the name of Nico. He is a nurse that was on the cardiology ward, but Josh is bringing him up on the team with Josh. With Josh, it's too much going on. Josh is bringing him up on the team with Wolf to help get neurology back on track. Now, as you see Nico in this, Nico kind of does the whole, I'm going to assume that Dr. Wolf is a certain way. And so he kind of comes in guns blazing. He's like, "No, I run a tight ship. You need to know all of these nurses' names because they need to feel valued. I'll put sticky stickers and name stuff on them, and you need to do all this. And Wolf is like, okay, girl. And it's almost like Nico is testing if Wolf has prosopagnosia, like for real, especially because when Dana and them are telling him about how Dr. Wolf is, he was like, oh, so he only remembers people that he likes. And he's just assuming that Wolf doesn't take time to know the people that's around him. But again, through this case, through Wolf even studying the files and just making a concerted effort in trying to meet people halfway, Nico has to humble himself and apologize to Wolf, and it's just like, look, I came in here and was like, you need to do things my way, but I never even gave an opportunity to learn how you do things. And Wolf told him, listen, you don't think I tried all these other things, baby? I am a solid 20 years older than you. I have tried everything. It's not that I don't remember these things, but I work on things a very specific way that works with me. Now, we can come together and we can fix everything and we can build and establish a wonderful relationship. It is important that I call them by their names. You are so right. But I am right in the way that I am, so respect it. And you really get to see that in them. And I also feel like this could be a really good platonic friendship between Wolf and Nico, because Wolf needs a friend who is not just Carol. Um and I just love the dynamic of Nico using all of this like modern terminology, like, oh, you ate that, and like, you go girl, and oh, it's looking like this, and Wolf is like, you keep saying words and I want to like you, but the more you speak, the more this relationship is not gonna work. And Nico just kind of like giggles and kind of takes that as a challenge, but I want to see this friendship develop. I like the relationships expanding and us moving into different spaces. So if we can get like Wolf and Nico, especially when we also are dealing with Anthony and Carol, you know what I'm saying? Like, really gonna continue to do that. Like, Anthony, what do I have? What do I have? What do I have? Yeah. So Anthony and Carol are bonding through divorce and the fallout of their kids and how their kids are kind of handling that relationship and stuff too. And what Anthony does and what the actor does is really beautifully ice skates on that line between flirting and um bonding through similar situations. There's such a vulnerability and a rawness and an openness whenever Anthony is talking to Carol. And I don't even think that she knows that she's reciprocating and mirroring these feelings. And so because I feel like she's unaware of the level of flirting that's happening. Like, she knows there's some flirting, but she has been out of the game for a long time. And you can tell that she really looks at Anthony as like a good, solid colleague. She doesn't have any hangups with him like she does with Wolf. She doesn't have a conflict of interest like she does now with Josh, being that he's Wolf's ex, but Wolf is her best friend of 2 decades. And so he's someone she can talk to in a capacity that they match each other's wit, they match each other's intellect, they match each other's um freak in a way. But it's so nice to see him be like giving like that energy to her without an expectation of anything in return. And because she's like slightly unaware, there's an openness to her. There's a vulnerability and a softness to her where she's allowing this man into her life, into her world, into her feelings. She's talking to him about things that we haven't seen her talk to Wolf about yet. And so there is a confidant here, and there is a trust in a newer relationship building with the both of them. And honestly, another element that Wolf and Josh just won't understand. It's just the blackness of it all. Like, there's just a way that Black people speak to each other that we could just say things to each other without having to use real words. There's looks, there's feelings, there's like like there's just nonverbal communication and just background information through shared heritage and shared culture that is just innate. And she gets to speak to him in a way that feels more like maybe talking to a family member, right? Um, and that's just something that she can't get anywhere else. And she could talk to Ericka about it, but she's an intern, so that would just be unprofessional. So she gets to talk to a colleague who's going through a similar situation, and in whatever way, shape, or form, they get to be there for each other. And they're just towing that line, especially through Anthony, of just like, I want you, I'm attracted to you, but he also recognizes in himself that now is not the time. It's like he's trying to respect his process too, because we find out that he moved out of the house a few months ago. So it's like he wants to get back on the wagon too, but it's like he's battling with himself to allow himself healing time as well. Because a divorce sucks. A divorce sucks. I'm speaking from experience. And even when you know it's the best thing to do and it's the right decision, it still hurts. It feels like failure. And you are very cautious before you go into the next thing. You're very cautious when you, well, not everybody, but you're more cautious when you date. And you're more cautious with the information that you allow out. And you want to do things differently. You want to investigate all the things that you did that led to the outcome, um so that you can focus on fixing you and seeing what things in you must work on before you go into the next relationship. And so outside of me wanting to see them have just nasty sex, um I enjoy that we get to see Carol entering a softer era, because we met her in season 1 very tense, like we were in the middle of their separation. So I love that for my girl. Next up, okay, um what the fuck is Jacob hiding? Because we're getting spurts of Jacob, but why are you vomiting in the ED trash can, and why are you sweating? So we know he's worried about CTE. We know some things are going on, but they're playing with us. I don't know if the vomiting was just like him really being freaked out about the whole incident, because it happens. I've worked with technicians, I've worked with doctors who've passed out from like blood. So it could be that, but we know that they're all kind of going through their own like brain anomaly situation. So I definitely wonder if he's hiding an illness, if he is manifesting an illness because he's so worried about having CTE. Um, or maybe it's not CTE, but he's hiding symptoms and he's not getting tested because he's afraid that it might be something that's incurable. But the fact that they put this moment in here and then we didn't go back to it, it's definitely giving there's a Jacob backstory coming up, and we're going to revisit this. So I'm very curious as to what he's hiding. What do y'all think? What's going on with Jake? Okay. What's going on with Dr. Nash? Okay. I need to know. Speaking of things I need to know when Dr. Wolf is going to be underneath Josh's body again. Did y'all see Josh at this episode? Listen, I'll keep telling y'all, if I was a gay man, Josh, listen. Again, NBC, brilliant mind writers. What are we doing? I love this mature approach and, the hospital budget cuts and we got to focus on being doctors and stuff like that. Why didn't Dr. Wolf close them blinds and like press his whole nose against Josh's carotid and just like shudder a little bit, and then Josh be like, we can't do this. And Wolf is like, I know, but I just couldn't help myself. It's been too long. Why are we not getting the goods? Where is the yearning? Where is the angst? Where is the longing? Like, oh my God, like, I need that 20-something-year-old toxic libido shit up in here. I know I said before I love the maturation. Yes, I do. But just because you're in your 40s don't mean that you ain't on no toxic shit. The toxic shit just like it grew up. So like the next time Josh is, I don't know, half naked in an office, can we please get Wolf pressed up against his longing just a little bit? Okay, like it's a waste of a naked body. Like my man had on like Speedo shorts and that's it. Wolf is obsessed with his large hands. Y'all piss me off. Oh, y'all pissing me off bad. And I want to fight you so much. I want to fight you so much. Cause ain't no way. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Why did y'all do this? What was even the point? What was the point of watching him work out? What was it? What was it? To taunt me? Cause at this point it's personal. I think I said this 2 episodes ago. It's personal. Y'all hate me. And I'm gonna write about this in my journal. I don't even journal, but I'm gonna write about this because y'all got me fucked up. Y'all got me fucked up, and I'm over it. Um, yeah, I think that was it. I think that was it. I think I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at it. Yeah, that was it. I forgot to mention who directed and wrote this. So shout out to y'all because this is a fun episode. Like I said, tonally is just completely different. Direction wise, it was a lot different. Like you can just tell that they are having so much fun and taking risks this season. And so far for me, it's paying off. I like to think that I'm not biased. I definitely recognize when I am being biased. But I like to think that I'm educated enough in film and television, and can take enough of an objective approach to be able to recognize differences, respect differences, and at least try to explain to my audience what's going on and what they're trying to do. Even if I don't like something, I'm not gonna necessarily flat out be like, don't go watch that. Not to the masses. If I'm having like a one-on-one and I know like this person or this friend or this family member is just not gonna vibe with it, I will tell them, hey, you won't like this. But I like to take approaches where whether I like it or not, there's an audience out there for it. And so I just want to make sure I'm delivering the information in a way where the people who are fans of these shows, these characters, these actors, I can deliver it to you in a way to where you can not listen to the grapevine and allow them to influence how you receive and how you rate these episodes and these seasons. So I say all that to say some people may not like the shift from season 1 to season 2. It is a shift. It is recognizable. The showrunners and the executive producers have already said that. So, it's not a surprise. Do some research. They've been telling you like it's different. I am excited about this difference. There's not a medical show on TV like it right now. And I think they still are able to maintain the heart of what the show is. And it's about looking at these patients and not discarding them and really making that human connection in order to save lives. Because they haven't abandoned that, they're taking the risk surrounding empathy and surrounding humanity. And then you end up with an episode like this one. And I will say, with the curse, and it's October, and next week is Halloween week, they are definitely setting us up for some type of Halloween spooky episode. And I don't know that we got a Halloween episode. Well, no, we only had 13 episodes last season. So the fact that this came out and we're getting like a nice, solid, like spooky, scary Halloween story, definitely excited about like what that looks like in the realm of being in the hospital. And y'all know how like these Halloween stories and different episodes and stuff play out. It can be very fun. So definitely interested in seeing how we marry serious medical events with the campiness, the cheesiness, and that fear factor of Halloween. I definitely see this being like a 911 approach, like when 911 does their Halloween episodes. It's some of my favorite episodes to watch because there's like a level of ridiculousness and jumpiness in there with like some seriousness. And all last season, Brilliant Minds was pretty serious. I think the most non-serious parts were Josh and Oliver hooking up in his office and getting caught on the elevator with his mama. But yeah, there's a space in here to really dive into that. And then because the season is going more psychological, we know that the themes surrounding Halloween is not necessarily the scary parts that are physical, tangible things that spook us. It's what we can conjure in our minds. So, what are they about to put our babies through mentally that is like the scariest thing for each of these characters to experience? Like, super excited about that. But shout out to the director and the writers and stuff of this episode. So, that is season 2, episode 5, Once Upon a Time in America for Brilliant Minds, directed by Paris Barclay. The writers are Stasia Demick and Shannon Looney, and the director of photography or cinematographer is Stanley Fernandez Jr. Now, Stanley has been on a few of these. Hold on. He did episodes 5, 3, I think, and the pilot. I didn't get to see who did. I think he did episode 2 too. So to see, is this blurry? Okay, it is what it is. But to see him at least in 4 of the 5 episodes as a cinematographer, but like seeing the styles be a little bit different, especially married with the different directors. Stanley has a really good relationship with the team. He takes direction well. I can just tell that the relationship between the directors and Stanley is phenomenal, and he gets to play with how the directors and the writers see the episodes going, because episode 5 was just so different. I mean, all of these episodes are really different, but there's still like I think there's a signature in there, and there's a little bit more movie in each of these episodes. You could definitely feel like silver screen in these, but it's stylized in a way that the director sees the episodes going, and you really get to see him bring these things to life. So just the talent behind the cameras is exquisite. It's incredible, and I always like to give the flowers and give the crew their tens. And the crew is everybody from the assistant, the writing assistant, to um craft services, like everybody. It takes a village to get these things to come to life. And as somebody who has been on a set where shit is going wrong, um you really got to love your team, and your team has to love you, and everybody has to be on the same page to make this work. So they're really putting up like 5 solid episodes back to back to back to back to back, with the tone shift from season 1 to season 2 while still being able to maintain the integrity of the series. That's not easy to do, and they're making it look very easy and very seamless. And like I've said before, normally season 3s are breakout seasons. Brilliant Minds season 2. Brilliant Minds season 2. It is what it is the season. And I still think that it's not going to be until season 3 where like the masses is like, "Oh my god, Brilliant Minds, where have I been?" But season 2 is shaping up to be a masterpiece. Like it's shaping up to be a masterpiece. But like it's feeling like season 2 of The Walking Dead. Like season 3 of The Walking Dead came out and it was like the prison and it was like all this craziness. So it's really like a lot of people came to the Walking Dead family in season 3. But when you go back and watch rewatches, and a lot of people go back and watch rewatches, season 2 is like, yo, season 2 slid. Season 2 slid so that season 3 could just take off. And I just feel like that is what Brilliant Minds season 2 is doing. Season 1 was like, oh my God, love it. Season 2, it's like a cold ass freestyle. And I fucks with it. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up this episode of Brilliant Minds. Y'all know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Leave comments in the comments box below. If you got people that only want to listen to me yap, make sure you share that Spotify and that Apple Podcast link. Okay, baby? Thank you. You can also find me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I post film and TV news and updates. I also have my Substack linked in the bio of my Instagram page as well. So while I will post things that are specific to Instagram, whenever I post any articles, I will also post imaging from there and let you know to go to the Substack for all of my people that want to read instead of listen to me because y'all think my voice is annoying or whatever. You can also find me on TikTok at Kivanchi, where I do short form reviews on things that I do not talk about on the podcast. And you can also find me on Twitter, where I'm talking about everything under the sun, baby. You really want to get into my mind? Find me on Twitter at Kivanchi. And with that, I'm going to catch y'all in the next podcast episode.